know what we're talking about, if you want to go back to it, you'll have the access to this document. So the three main things we're going to talk about this evening is connecting to your student's Canvas account through the parent app. I'm going to show a short video from the Fayette County Instructional Technology Department that they put together for how to access the app and getting linked together. And then also there's what is the Canvas parent app, and that's directly from Canvas themselves. Another thing we're going to talk about is using how to use the calendar, but not just inside of the parent app, but also in the student account, how that is and how that's set up. And then we'll also talk about the grades tab inside of each subject area that can be used to follow your students' progress. So the first thing, this link here to the instructional video, back that up. Did I click the sound box? I do not think I did. Oh, yes, I am. Good. All right, so here's a short video from Josh at the Instructional Technology Department.
Your tablets that you're using. Now, this is an app. It's available for the iOS and Android markets. So you can go to your app store and you're going to search for the words Canvas Parent. And when you download that, the first thing you're going to see is it's going to ask you to find your school. So we're going to let this download, and once it finds your school, you're thinking, oh, well, I'll just type in Fayette County Public Schools. Well, that's not going to take you where you want it to go. So you're going to want to type in FCPS. And when you type in FCPS, that's going to say FCPS, and then parentheses is going to say KY, and then you're going to see one that says parent and one that says student and staff. Obviously, you're going to pick the parent one. Now, once you pick the parent one, then it's going to ask you for a login and a password. If you've already set this up, you could just type in your email address and your password, or the login that you're using and your password for the Canvas app, and then it's going to let you in. If it's the first time that you're using Canvas, you're going to want to get a code from your student. So I'm going to tell you how to get into this through the student side so that you can see where your student needs to go to get that code. So now we're going to take a second, we're going to break from our Canvas parent app, and we're going to jump into the student side of what they're going to see when they log into Canvas. Now they can go to use their waffle and go to their waffle into Canvas, or they can go into fcps.net/Canvas, or they can use fcps.instructure.com to get to Canvas. Once they get there, they're going to log in with their school email address and their password. Those two things your students should know. And once they're there, you're going to see the dashboard for your Canvas site. Now, this dashboard is going to be where all your student work is done, and that's where your students communicate with their teachers, and that's how they see anything that they're supposed to submit. It will have a little person there. That is your settings icon, and when you click on that settings icon, that's going to take you into the student settings. Now you're going to scroll all the way down to the bottom, and you're going to look for a peer observer or pair with observer. You're going to look for pair with observer, and then it's going to give you a code. Now that 6-digit code is what you need to put inside the parent portal when you go to create your account. So if you haven't already done that, I would like you to go do that first so that then you can follow along with our instructions.
That's not something you need to do now. You'll have access to this video off of that document, so that's not something you need to do right now.
Now again, you will have to have your student log into their account to get that observation code or to pair with an observer, because that's what you're doing. You're observing their course. So once you have that code, now you're going to go into the Canvas app once more, and you're going to click on the parent button that says create a parent account for the first time. And when you click that parent account, you're going to fill out all your information. You're going to give them your name, your email address, and a password that you're going to set up. And then you're going to put in that code, that 6-digit code for your student. And then you're going to agree to the terms and the privacy policy if you so choose. And then you're going to hit start participating. Now, once you have done that, your account's all set up and you're ready to go. But if you have more students, there's a way that you can add another student inside that one Canvas course. And you're just going to click up at the top where it says your student's name, and you're going to see a little button that says Add Student. All you have to do is add that observer code in there so that you can get all of your students that are using Canvas into one parent app. Well, if you have any other.
So one thing that we've learned as we've been going through this evening is, as you probably noticed with Canvas, that things look very similar depending upon whatever class you're in. They look the same again and again and again. And this top menu up here, when you have multiple students, you can actually toggle between them. We've learned that today, so that you don't have it all with, because if you have more than one student, it can become kind of jumbled and overwhelming with that, and that way you can toggle between them. So that's this link to that video if you want to remember how to find that code that you'll need to put in, that observer code, or how to access the app. Another link that's here is from Canvas themselves, and it just explains what the Canvas app actually is, where you can get it, what it does, and it shows it, this with your particular child, you'll be able to see their grades in each subject area, the calendar of the assignments that they would have due. That's a screenshot of what that would look like. There's alerts there. That's going to be the assignments that come back graded, and if there's comments on those assignments. You can also, in here, you can set alerts. One of the parents that was in on the last time, they set up alerts anytime that the student scores, their students score below a certain grade level. They set up for those announcements so that they know when there's an assignment missing or when they've scored below a certain amount, so that they can help out that way. So then again, if you're wondering what this is, and there's things there, the Canvas community is a great area to get help if you wanted to search it and find up here. Another thing is anything you probably would ever want to know and then some. Canvas is very widely used across the country. I was telling Brittany before that I believe it's about 20 states. It's their adopted mode of LMS that they use. So it's a pretty widely used program. The next thing we're going to get into is using the calendar both inside the parent app and the student account to follow the assignments. And here's a screenshot of what a calendar looks like. And so I'll go in here to mine and actually show you. I've got to leave the student view a second here. Sorry, I have to toggle between student view and teacher view so that we can see what it looks like. So here's what the calendar will look like based on whether you were in parent view or student view. As I said, Canvas tries to keep things very similar so that you don't get lost in the navigation of things. So it looks very similar whether you're in the parent app or the student app. All subjects are color coded. So if you're wondering what just math would look like, they're all the brown. Now you'll see some of the brown from last week, they are actually crossed out. And what that means is that assignment has been turned in. Then you'll see here this assignment is it's either been not turned in or it was returned and there's something to do on it. So that's why it is uncrossed now. There also, so social studies would be anything in blue, so you can see there. So each subject is actually color coded so that you know which assignment is which. So we'll go back. So now we're going to look at the calendar, what it looks like just in one subject area. And I'll do this in the actual student view, so it looks like this would be what it would look like if you went in to your child's account and looked at it. This is what their course would look like. And over here, you can look and you can just, when you're just in that specific subject, you see what's only due for that particular subject. Now, this one is me as a teacher in my teacher account, so there is nothing crossed out because I haven't turned anything in, of course. So that's what it would look like there for the, so let's go back. So now we're going to talk about, so that's what the calendar would look like there. So now we're going to go into the grades tab. And one area where I think this is valuable is for you to see whether your child is just submitting assignments, because you could go over here to the calendar and you'll be like, wow, there's nothing on there. They're all crossed out, so they've turned everything in. And one thing we need to talk about is, are they doing their best on the assignments? Or if they didn't do well, what feedback is there? You can set those notifications up where they come through and you can see them in the parent app, but you can also help your student do that through this tab right here. When we look at the menu, there's usually, depending upon the class, there's anywhere from 2 to 5 menu options over here, and we go to grades. And this is your student's grade book. Now, the thing we can do here is we can do a couple things. We can look at all of the grading periods, so any assignment that they've ever done. We can look at just quarter 1, or we can select quarter 2, which we're currently in. Up here is going to show a total grade. Now, one thing to think about, any grades in here now, that 25% is only scoring this one assignment. Of course, I'm in a test student, so I put in a blank assignment to show what it would look like. So if you, until the end of the grading period, missing assignments do not count against the grade. So they don't count for or against, they're just considered blank. But once we unclick that at the end of the grading period, those become zeros. So that takes that. So that's one thing to think about when you look at the grade and say, hey, they've got an 88%. And then you can click this and it can quickly drop because it'd be 88% based on what they've turned in. So you really want to make sure that you're checking to see if that says missing. That's the key one to point into. If it says late, do not worry about that. That just means it was turned in after the due date, because we do have to put a due date on it to get the assignment to show up in the calendar. So if it's late, don't worry about that. We do not take off points for things being late. So this one still says missing, even though there's a score here, and that's simply because I, as a teacher, can't turn anything in there. But since this has a score, this would say either late or they would say nothing. So here's the assignment. Here's the total points that would be available, and here is the score that I have. Now, you might wonder, hey, why was that score so low? Let's see what Mr. Bassler had to say about that. And it says here that maybe I should have spent a little more time on this one. It would be more specific feedback if it was an assignment where they really needed to do better. I would put that there. You can also see here with this box, this shows their data based on how they measure up to the rest of the class. There's going to be a little graph here to show, so you can see how they did in reference to the rest of the class. So you could see if it's just an assignment that everybody did not do well on, or if it's something that they're just an anomaly and they didn't do well and maybe need to go back and rework through the module, or go through and take it again. So then that's how we find the score and grades and feedback. One thing I just thought of that we want to make sure we look at when we go through this, if you just click the calendar and you're just taking assignments based on the calendar. So say we went here and said, oh, this is due, let me click that. And I'm going to do this assignment because it's due here. It takes me straight to the quiz. Well, if I take this quiz, I probably should have done the work beforehand. I want to make sure I hit previous and make sure that I go through the work beforehand, so that way I know what I'm taking a test on or taking a quiz on, those questions, so I know what it's for. So that is just about all that I have for this. We are opening up to questions. Should you have any questions about what we've talked about this evening?
I'm going to go ahead and link that in the chat one more time in case you all need it to refer back to later. And if you have any questions, let us know. If not, you're free to go on to your last session tonight. Thank you all so much for coming.
I just had a quick question.
Sure.
Did I hear him say that there was like a grade graph, like you could see what the grades were within a class to see how your child was doing, or did I
yeah.
mishear that?
Yes, it will show you that. Let me pull that.
I missed that part. I haven't seen.
So
haven't
what
come
it
across
shows,
that.
so what it is I'll actually share that right back and show you what I was talking about. Let's go here into grades. Whoops. Hold on, let me get back into the student view so that I'm not compromising anybody's information. I wish I could show you what an actual student, what it would actually look like on a graded assignment so that you could actually see it. So what happens here is when you're in the grades tab, there are two icons that show up. If it has a comment, this little two speech bubbles show up. Every other assignment will have this box right here. And what it happens, because this is a test student, it doesn't actually show their grade statistics according to. So what it shows up is a box and whisker plot. So you're going to see the median score, so basically the average. You're going to see the median score, so the middle grade, and then you're going to see the dot as to where your child's score fell in reference to the median score.
Gotcha. Okay, I hadn't come across that yet. That's interesting. That's good to know.
And this little checkbox, when if I was to go into another student's, a little checkbox would show up. As a matter of fact, I believe it shows it. You probably can't see, but see every single one of those. Actually, I can just zoom in. Every single one of those assignments in that box has that little box at the end, and you see there's one that has a comment, and each of those just have the data graph.
Okay.
All right.
That was a good question. I haven't looked at that very much, Mr. Basler. All right.
That was
Any other
something-
questions?
Yes, this is Diana Tudor. I have a second grader, and I just started with the Canvas app, and I'm getting an email notice every time a grade is put in. Is there any way for me to kind of limit that to once a day, or?
Yes, you can actually, because that'll do the same thing. Because we can watch, because it'll do it to us as a teacher. It'll email us every time somebody submits something.
It drives me crazy, doesn't it?
Oh yes, yes. So what you're actually going to see is that's going to fall in here when you're looking at this parent app portion here, and that's going to be on this bottom when you're looking at this manage students. So you're setting these alerts. So you're setting up these alerts based on what is happening there, and to exactly how you do it, that the parent app is not something I've ever used. I don't have any children that actually use Canvas. So the school district my children go to do not use Canvas. West Virginia is one of those states that don't use Canvas. But if you search that in YouTube, that will be a huge, as a matter of fact, guess what? If you put your email in the chat, I'll search it up and I'll find you a link to a good video that works, and I'll email it to you. How about that?
That sounds great.
So let me just make a new, and I'll just